Namaskar, welcome to the CTET Mathematics Preparation Classes. I am Manohar Head, Senior Research Fellow, Regional Staff Education, Mysuru. So in this session, today, we are going to discuss about another dimension of the mathematics, that is the geometry. Okay. So now, in this session, one minute. So now coming to the trend analysis of the this chapter, if you see in the previous CTET question papers from the paper 1 and paper 2, so these are the topics which mainly they're asking. The topics are angles and types of the angles, and based on the properties of angles, and the questions based on the parallel lines and transversal, and the angle bisector, and some of the basic geometrical terms and concepts, curves. Okay, so most frequently they have been covering in identifying the different angles and types of the angles, that is acute, right angle, obtuse angle, straight angle, and reflex angle, and complete angles. So these are the angles they are focusing, and based on these concepts they are asking some of the questions in this paper 1 and paper 2 very frequently. And then also they're asking complementary angles and supplementary angles, and vertical opposite angles, linear pair, adjacent angles, and angle formed by the parallel lines, transversal lines, and angle sum around a point. Then angle bisector concept. So most frequently from these concepts, 4 concepts, they have been asking questions based on these concepts. Now let us see one by one, and along with this previous CTET questions, and we'll try to understand the concepts. So maximum from these topics every year in the CTET paper 1, CTET paper 2, 3 to 4 questions they have been asking from the topic of the geometry. So then let us try to understand, before we solve previous questions, let us try to understand the basic geometrical terms. So now let us understand what is the point. So point, it is a location or a marker which has the 0 dimensions. So where the point can be represented as a symbol of dot. Okay, so which doesn't have any length, doesn't have any depth, doesn't have the width. If you let us take, so for example, in a circle if you represent the point, okay, with that means in our circle you represent the point without any radius. So then the point we say that this is called a point, which you represent by the dot symbol. And the next one is, before understanding the line segment, let us try to understand the line. So what is the line? So a point between the points A and B, or we call it as a line, which has both the points endlessly extend the direction of the path of the points. Okay, so then we represent line as a point A and point B. So where both the ends will be endlessly extending. So the line segment, the straight path which has a fixed length and the 2 distinct endpoints. So if you see that, okay, so there is a point A here, there is a point B. So the distance between point A and point B are the fixed distances. For example, it may be 5 meter or 5 centimeter or 3 centimeter, so in a such a way that, okay, so where between the 2 points, point A and point B, has the fixed length. So this this we say that it is a line segment. We represent line segment AB, we represent as the AB, okay, whereas point we represent as the AB. Ray. So next coming basic concept is the ray. A ray is a line path with one fixed endpoint that extends endlessly in another opposite direction. So where it starts with the one point, fixed point, that is, let us assume that P or A, and another direction it is endlessly extending. Okay, so if it is a point A, then another point is B, then this point B is that direction endlessly it is extending. Okay, so for example, like point B and point Q, where point Q is extending in another direction. Okay, this is one of the basic concept of the ray. And another concept is open curve, a curve where the starting point and end point do not meet at all. So these kind of line segment, we say that it is a curve where it start with the one point and it is end with the another point, where do not meet each other in a when they're forming the curve. Okay, so it forms like in a zigzag way, we say that. Okay, so for example, like in the letter of Z and the letter of U, these are the examples of the open curve where these 2 points doesn't meet at any point. Then the closed curve. Okay, so next term is closed curve, a curve that completely encloses an area. So the closed curves, for example, like if you take the square where it is start with one point and end with that same point only. Okay, so that means completely it will be the closed. For example, square, rectangle, circle, these are all the examples of the closed curve where the starting point and end point meet at a certain point. Okay, so that we say that is a closed curve. Then next, so some of the other basic terminology we need to understand before we try to solve the previous question. So let us look at one the angles and bisectors. Okay, so here the complementary angles, the first one is the complementary angle. So what is the meaning of the complementary angle here? The complementary angles means the two angles whose sum is exactly 90 degrees. So the angle, if you let us take like so here angle 1 and angle 2 is equal to 90 degrees. So where the angle is formed from the two angles. So when you say that two angles, when you add the sum of these two angles, if it is make exactly 90 degrees, then we say that both the angle 1 and angle 2 are the complementary angles. So that means two angles whose sum is exactly 90 degrees, then that kind of those angles we say that these are the complementary angles. The next one is supplementary angles, the two angles whose sum is exactly 180 degrees. So the angle, the given angles, angle 1 plus angle 2 or angle A plus angle B, if both the angles when add both the angles, if you make it, if the both angles make it the sum, the the both sum of the angles, if it is become 180 degrees, then we say that both the angles are the supplementary angles. So supplementary angles can be anyway like this. So this may be 150 degrees, this may be some 30, this may be 150 degrees, this may be 30 degrees. Okay, so these two angles, angle 1 and angle 2, we say that these are the supplementary angles. Okay, now if you see here, this is the angle 1, this is the angle 2. So sum of these two angles are the 180 degrees. Okay, so it may be 90 degrees and this may be 90 degrees. In this other way also can be represented. Okay, so maybe like this. Okay, this might be the some angle value, 1 is some value and some angle 2 value is another some angle. Okay, so when you make both the two, this becomes a when both angles become 180 degrees, we say that these angles are the supplementary angles. Okay, the next one is linear pair. Okay, so adjacent angles formed when two lines intersect adding up to 180 degrees. So now angle 1 and angle 2. Okay, so where these adjacent angles, when they make it 180 degrees, then we say that these angles are in the linear pair angle. Okay, so for example angle 1 plus angle 2 both equal to 180 degrees. Then angle bisector theorem. Okay, so so how do what is the meaning of angle? Angle, it is formed from initial point where the two lines are meet at a initial point and the two lines makes a angle. So an angle bisector divides an angle into two perfectly equal halves. Okay, so when the angle another line when it make is to when it make bisector, okay, so it forms a two another equal halves. Okay, so angle 1, so in such a cases what will become? Angle 1 is equal to angle 2. So if OC is the bisector of angle AOB, here angle AOB, if OC is the bisector of angle OBB, then we say that angle 1 is equal to angle 2. Okay, so then interior bisector angle. So the angle formed between the internal bisectors of base angles in triangle ABC, it is given by 90 degrees plus angle A by 2. So what is the meaning of internal bisector angle? Means in a given triangle, in a given triangle ABC, okay, the base angle, what are the base angles in a given triangle ABC here? The angle B and the angle C are the base angles. Okay, so when these angle formed between the internal bisector of the base angles, these base angles, when bisect the base angles, angle B and angle C like this. Okay, so where the intersect point, when the intersect point is forms a angle, so this angle is the internal bisector of the angle. So that angle is always 90 degrees plus opposite vertex of the angle by 2. Okay, so for in this case let us see now. Okay, so in this case So in this case, okay, so angle B and angle C, this is the point where intersect point by forming. Okay, so for this, what is the opposite exact opposite vertex point is angle A. Okay, so therefore the internal bisect angle will become here 90 plus, it become a 90 plus opposite. What is the opposite of this angle A, vertex of angle, that is divided by 2. Okay, so this is the internal bisector angle, whereas in the external bisector angle it will become opposite. Okay, so for angle BA, so in a given triangle angle BEQ, okay, so that becomes a 90 degrees opposite to the angle opposite to the bisector angle of the opposite by 2. So that means 90 degrees minus angle A by 2. For similarly if you take like BIC, similarly if you take CIA angle CIA, okay, so this will become 90 plus, okay, 90 plus, what is the opposite angle of this? Angle B by 2. Okay, so like this. Okay, these are the internal bisector angle and these are the external bisector angle. Now let us see one questions now, previous year questions. The question is like this: the difference between two supplementary angles is 20 degrees. If the smaller angle is P, then what is the value of the 3P minus 50 degrees? The options are given like this. Option 1 is 310 degrees. Option 2 is 270 degrees. Option 3 is 250 degrees. Option 4 is 190 degrees. Which is the correct option? Let us see now. Now if you read the question here, the difference between the two supplementary angles is 20 degrees. If the smaller angle is P, then what is the value of the 3P minus 50? So what is the concept which is involved here? They are asking the question based on the supplementary angles. So what is the supplementary angle? Let us see now what is the supplementary angle. So we have discussed in the previous slide. Okay, supplementary angles means the two angles are called the supplementary angles if those two angles makes the sum of the two angles become a 180 degrees. Okay, so for let us example angle 1 plus angle 2, if the sum of the angle 1 angle 2 become a 180 degrees, then we say that this angle 1 angle 2 are the 180 degrees. So for example, you can A and B are the supplementary of A plus angles, the supplementary angles where we can represent in the A plus B is equal to 180 degrees. So if you see that in a given line, okay, so where this point A and point B are both are the making the 180 degrees. Okay, so now whenever they ask the question based on the supplementary property, we have to remember that okay, both the angles A plus B is equal to 180 degrees. So that is the property which we have to remember whenever the questions asked based on the supplementary angles. So now let us see. So whenever they ask you use the given relationship, like whenever they ask you to identify the difference of giving supplementary angles, and we need to identify what is the difference of angle 1 angle 2. In such a cases we use A minus B is equal to K degrees. Okay, so that is the formula where A plus B is equal to 180 degrees. In identify the differences with A minus B is equal to K degrees, then when you simplify we'll get the required value, required angle, okay, either angle P or angle Q or angle 1 or angle 2. Okay, so now in order to identify the larger angle, we need to apply 180 degrees plus K degrees by 2, and for a smaller angle 180 degrees minus K degrees by 2. So while larger angle is 180 degrees means where sum of the supplementary angles makes the 180 degrees. For the larger angle we need to do the addition, for smaller angle we need to subtract from the supplementary angle. So now let us see the question what they are asking. So the difference between the two supplementary angle is 20 degrees. If the smaller is P, then what is the value of the 3P minus 50 degrees? So now what is the larger value? We don't know that. Okay, so now let larger angle be the X and smaller angle be the P. Smaller angle they have given in the question already, it is a P. Now what is the larger angle? We don't know that. Let us assume that it is a X. Okay, so now what is the supplementary angle? The sum of the two angles are the 180 degrees. Now two angles they are given, so what is that? X plus P is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so X plus is 180 degrees and X minus P is, this is the larger angle and X minus P is the smaller angle. Now subtracting these two equations, we will get when you subtract these equations, we try to identify a P value. Now X plus P is equal to 180 degrees and X minus P is equal to 20 degrees. Okay, so now let us try to find the, because we need to identify what is the value of 3p minus 50 degrees. So that means we need the p value which is required first. Okay, we don't know p value, so from these two equations we are trying to identify the p value here. Okay, so now so when you subtract, the signs will become positive, will become a minus, minus will become a positive, and plus will become a minus. So plus x minus x both will get cancelled, and plus p it will become a 2p, and 180 minus 20 it become a 160 degrees. Okay, so now what is the p value? Now p is equal to 160 divided by 2. So when you do this, p value will get the 80 degrees. Okay, so now what is the required value? So we don't know what is the p value, that is smaller angle, we don't know, so that we identified. Okay, so now required value is 3p minus 50. So now substitute this p value into the given value. Okay, so 3p minus 50 degrees, when you substitute, how much will get? 3 into 80 minus 50. Okay, so when you do this, you will get 3 8 is 24 minus 50. When you subtract this, we will get the 180 degrees. So what is the required value here? 180 degrees. So which is the option is correct? Option 4 is the correct one. Okay, so without even calculating, so mentally also we can calculate. So let us see how we can calculate this. Since the angles are they are given clearly supplementary angles here, we know that the supplementary angles are the 180 degrees. Okay, if the difference is 120, then the smaller angle must be less than the 90. Okay, so for 180, so how we can do that? Let me try once. Okay, I will show. Okay, so for example, for 180 degrees, okay, the difference is how much they're asking? 20. Okay, so that means half of the 180 is 90. Okay, then half of the 20 difference is 10. Okay, so when you difference this, what will become this difference? So for this difference, it will become a 160. This difference will become a 80. Okay, so which is a smaller angle. So this will become the bigger one, this will become the smaller one, whereas p is equal to 80. Okay, so now we got the p value. Apply the p value into the given 3p minus 50 directly. Mentally also we can calculate like this. So we'll get the answer 190 degrees. Now next question is, the sum of all interior angles of a regular polygon is 1080 degrees. What is the measure of each of its exterior angles? So the question is the sum of all interior angles of a regular polygon. So they didn't mention like how many polygons. They are given the sum of the interior angles of the regular polygon is 1080 degrees. Now what we have to measure? What is the measure of each of its exterior angle we need to measure? So the options are given like this. Option 1 is 36 degrees. Option 2 is 45 degrees. Option 3 is 30 degrees. Option 4 is 40 degrees. Okay. Now let us try to remember what is the polygon. Polygon means it is a closed curved figure. Okay, where each sides are the equal. Okay, so this is a polygon. Okay, so where which is polygon is forming based on at least minimum more 3 or more the line segments. Okay, so now whenever they ask the regular polygon, the sum of the interior angle of the regular polygon will become a sum of the interior angles of the regular polygon, it become n minus 2 into 180 degrees. These are the basic formulas which we need to remember. Okay, so here what is the n? N is the number of sides of the regular polygon. Okay, so here in how many sides are there? 1 2 3 4 5, where all sides are the forming the polygon, and each side is equal in a length. Okay, so in order to identify the sum of the interior angles, this is angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, angle 4. The sum of these angles, interior angles, of to identify what is the sum of the interior angles, the formula is n minus 2 into 180 degrees. Why it is a 180 degrees? Okay, the sum of the angle of polygon, it makes interior angle makes a 180 degrees. Then in order to identify okay, so in order to identify what is the each interior angle, so this is the formula for the sum of the interior angle. but if at all if you want to identify what is the value of each interior angle, so like only for the interior angle A, interior angle B, interior angle B, D. Okay, so in such a cases, in order to identify each interior angle, we use the formula n minus 2 into 180 degree by n. So where n is the number of sides, where is the number of sides of the given regular polygon. Okay, so here how many regular sides they are given? 1 2 3 4 5 6. So that means where n is equal to 6. Okay, so now for example, if you see for a triangle, how many sides will be there? 3 sides. For a quadrilateral, how many sides will be? 3 sides. Okay, for triangle side 1 2 3. Okay, 3 sides. For quadrilateral we will be having the 4 sides. Okay, similarly for the pentagon we have the 5 sides, 1 2 3. This is the example of the pentagon where 5 sides. Similarly for the hexagon, this is the example of hexagon. Hexagon. So if you see this one, okay, 1 2 3 4 5, there are the 6 sides will be there. So in such a cases, what will become the sum of the interior angles of for the triangle? It will become 180 degrees. For the interior angle of the quadrilateral, it become a 360 degrees. For the pentagon, it becomes a 540. Okay, for the hexagon, it becomes a 720. So like we have the heptagon, we have octagon, we have nonagon, decagon, like that. Okay, so for each interior angle, we have to divide with the given number of sides. Okay, so now if we divide it 180 by 3, we'll get the 60 for each angle. That means in a triangle, if you see, each angle will be the 60 degrees for the triangle. So here for pentagon, it will become each angle is the 108 degrees. Like for hexagon, now it will be each angle will become the 120 degrees. So that means each angle, this will be the 120 degrees, angle B the 120, angle B the, so C the 120, angle D the 120, angle E the 120. The value of angle of F is the 120 degrees. So this is the way of identifying when they are given the regular polygon, sum of the interior angles and each and the value of the sum of the interior angles and each interior angle. Okay, similarly for the exterior angles, the sum of the all exterior angles is always a constant in a given regular polygon. Now these are the exterior angles. Okay, so this sum of all the exterior angles will make it a 360. When you extend this lines, okay, when it becomes a 360 degrees, sum of all the exterior angles. Now in order to identify which each exterior angle, so suppose let us assume that this is a okay, I want to identify angle of A. So for each angle of the exterior angle, the formula will be 360 degrees divided by n. Okay, so now suppose like for triangle. Okay, so if we take the triangle, okay, these are the exterior angles. Point C, this is exterior angle, this is the exterior angle. So now sum of the exterior angle become a 360. Okay, so for each triangle, how much the angle will be there? If we divide 360 by 3, we'll get the 120. So that means in a given triangle, okay, so the each angle will be the 120 degrees. Okay, so that is for the triangle. Similarly if you see for the quadrilateral, okay, where quadrilateral we have the 4 sides. Okay, so each angle how much it will become? 360 by 4, that will become a 90 degrees. For the pentagon, we have the 5 sides. Okay, for each exterior angle it will become a 360 by 5, that becomes a 72. For hexagon, how many sides? We have 6 sides. Okay, for each exterior angle it will become a 60 degree. Again for heptagon, 7. Okay, the sum of the exterior angle will become a 360. Okay, similarly for each exterior angle, if you want to identify in the heptagon, 360 divided by 70, if you do, we will get the angle here. Okay, so now let us try to see based on this concept the previous question what they are trying to ask us. Now they have given the sum of the interior angles of the regular polygon is 1080 degrees, and what is the measure of each exterior angle we need to its exterior angle we need to identify. Okay, what is the sum of the interior angles here? What is the formula of the sum of the interior angle here? n minus 2 into 180 degrees. 1 minus 2 into 180 degrees is equal to 1080. So that is the given in the question. Okay, now we need to identify, we don't know how many sides of the polygon he is having, so that means what we need to identify, the n we need to identify. N is nothing but sides of the polygon, so that we need to identify here. Now if you simplify this one, how much we'll get? n minus 2 is equal to 1080 by 180. Okay, so 180 we will get it. Okay, so now if you simplify this one, 118 ones are 18 6 are 6. Okay, so we will get the n minus 2 is equal to 6, where n is equal to 6. This minus 2, if you come this side, right hand side, then into n will become a 8. So that means the 8 sides of the, that means what is the octagon if they are given. So the sum of the octagon value is 1080 degrees they have given. So that is the image of the octagon, where we have the 8 sides. Okay, 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, so now we identified the n we have identified here. So now what we have to measure the exterior angle of this exterior angle of the octagon. We have to identify. So now they have given some of the interior angles they are given here, and from that identify what is the how many sides of the interior angles. Okay, how many sides we have to identify, that is n we need to identify. So from that, again, for that given polygon we need to identify the exterior angle we need to identify. So what is the formula for the in order to identify the exterior angle of each angle? So 360 the formula is 360 degrees by n. So now what is the 360? What is the n we got it? 8 we got it. 360 divided by 8, if you see this, we will get the 45 degrees. So now what is the option here? The correct option is the option 2 is the correct option, is the 45 degrees. So now whenever they ask about the polygons concept, like remember the formulas of the sum of the interior angles of the polygon, and for each interior angle what is the formula, and then what is the formula for the exterior angle, and what is the formula for each in order to identify the each exterior angle. So when you remember these formulas for the polygon, these kind of questions we can do very easily without spending much time on that. This is the concept which I discussed. Then the next question is, if two parallel lines are cut by the transversal and one of the interior angles on the same side of the transversal is 55 degrees, find the value of the other interior angle on the same side. The options are 55 degrees, option 2 is 125 degrees, option 3 is 145 degrees, option 4 is 35 degrees. So now what they are asking, it is the question is asking, if two parallel lines are cut by the transversal line and one of the interior angle on the same side of the transversal is the 55 degrees. Okay, so that means they are given, there are two parallel lines. Okay, the parallel line, one is the L, let us assume that it is L, and other is the M. So what is the concept of the parallel lines here? The distance between the two given lines are the distance between the two given lines are the same. If distance is the same, then we say that the given lines are the parallel lines. Okay, so for these parallel lines, one line, so parallel lines are cut by these parallel lines are cut by the another one transversal line. So this line we call it is a transversal line. This we call it as a transversal line. Okay, so when it is cut the one side of one of the interior angles, so when we cut it, what will become? These two becomes a interior angles. It will become, these two become a exterior angles. So this will become exterior. That means this, let us assume that angle 1, angle 2, and angle 3 and angle 4. Let us assume that it is angle 5 and angle 6 and angle 7 and angle 8. Okay, so now here angle 3, so one side, angle 4 and angle 6 becomes one side of the interior angle, and angle 3, angle 5 becomes another side of the interior angles, and angle 1 to angle 2 will become another exterior angles, and angle 7, angle 8 becomes exterior angles of the given parallel lines. Okay, so interior angles on the same side of the transverse lines are called these two are the co-interior angles. We also call it as a supplementary angles. Similarly, angle 3 and angle 5 also we call it as a co-interior angles, or the supplementary angles when the parallel lines are cut by the transversal lines. Okay, now let us try to solve this one. Before that, let us see what is the concept here. Okay, so when two parallel lines are intersected by the straight line, so that means a transversal line. Okay, then we say that both are in the parallel lines. Okay, they both are the parallel lines. So for example, angle L, for example, line L and line M are both are the parallel lines, and this is a T is the transversal line. So when it is cut the parallel lines by the transversal line, the angles will be formed like this: angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, angle 6, angle 7, angle 8. So where L parallel to M, L is parallel to M, and where T is the transversal line. Now alternate interior angles. So what is the alternate? So here we form the alternate interior angles, corresponding angles and co-interior angles also will form. Now what are the alternate angles here? Okay. Now angle 3 and angle 6, this and this one, okay, will become the alternate interior angles. Okay. So now if you see this one, okay, if you see this one, angle 3 and angle 6, okay, and angle 4 and angle 5, okay, these two become a alternate interior angles. Okay, alternate interior angles within the when we cut the transversal line. Okay, then corresponding angles, the corresponding angles are the equal. Okay, so where angle 1 and angle 5 are the corresponding angles, where angle 2 and angle 6 are the corresponding angle, whereas angle 4 and angle 8, these two are the corresponding angle, where angle 3 and angle 7 both are the corresponding angles. Okay, so these are the corresponding angles in a parallel lines. Then what are the interior angles? Let us see. So the consecutive interior angles on the same side on the transversal lines, always the angles of the sum will be always 180 degrees. Since those angles we call it as a co-interior angles. Now if you make it this one and the sum of this angle 1, this angle, if we become both 180 degrees, then we say that okay, angle 3 and angle 5 are the co-interior angles. Similarly, angle 4 and angle 6, the sum of these two angles, if it is a 180 degrees, the sum of these two angles become 180 degrees, then we say that co-interior angles of the given parallel lines. Okay, now so the question is based on this parallel lines concept. Now let us try to solve this problem. Okay, now what they are asking, if two parallel lines are cut by the transversal and one of the interior angles on the same side of the transversal is 55 degrees, find the value of the other interior angle on the same side. Okay, so that is the figure. Okay, now let us understand the figure of the question here. Let us try to understand figure of the given question. Okay, now so two parallel lines where L and L parallel to M, two parallel lines where T is the transversal line. Okay, when they cut, the question they are asking that one of the interior angles, this one and this one are the interior angles here. So this will be the one of the transversal line angle of the 55 degrees, and find the value of another value. So this value we need to identify, which is that value we need to let us see that. Okay, now let unknown angle, we don't know this, let us assume that is the x. Okay, now what is the formula here? Sum of the supplementary angle concept, to bring it co-interior angles property, supplementary angle, we bring it. Okay, so now angle 1 plus angle x is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, let us assume that. Okay, so what is the value of angle 1 here? 55 degrees. Okay, so 55 degrees plus angle x is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, based on the co-interior angles property. What is the co-interior angle property here? The sum of the co-interior angle property will become the 180 degrees. Okay, now we need to identify the x value. So now x is equal to 180, this 55 bring it to right hand side. So when you subtract 55 from the 180, that will become the 125 degrees. Option 2 is the correct answer. So when you if you remember these formulas, and easily we can solve this formula. So without that also we can solve this formula, just remembering the only concept of the interior angles of the same side of the transversal angle. Okay, so that means if both the angles should be equal to 180, so one angle is given, another way we don't know that. When you subtract that one, we'll get the another angle. Now the next one is two complementary angles are in the ratio 2:3. Find the value of the larger angle. So now this question, if you analyze this question, they are given the concept based on the complementary angles. Now let us try to understand what is the concept of the complementary angles. The sum of the complementary angles, like given sum of the angles of for example angle A and angle B. If the angle A and angle B makes sum of the angle A and angle B becomes 90 degrees, then we say that both the two angles are the complementary angles. So for example here, if the value of the 2x and if the value of 3x, if both the angles make it 90 degrees, then we say that these two angles are in the complementary angles 90 degrees. Okay, so now, so how many, that is the concept of the complementary angle. Okay, so that, so let us try to see. Okay, for the, what is the formula for the complementary angle? If two complementary angles are in the ratio A is to B, let the angle be AX and BX, then AX plus BX is equal to 90 degrees. Then where we need to find the X is equal to 90 degrees by A plus B. Then angles will become AX into that AX and BX into B, that means B into X. So once we identify the X value, then we apply into that AX and BX, then we will get the value of the A and B. Okay, so this is the complementary angles of the visualization, where the both angles, angle A and angle B, should make it exactly 90 degrees. Okay, so complementary angles always A plus B is equal to 90 degrees. Always divide the 90 degrees by the sum of the ratios. Okay, so for example, the given two complementary angles are in the ratio of 2:7. Find the measure of the each angle we need to identify. So okay, so before we solve this one, let us try to solve the previous question. So let angles, so what are the two complementary in the ratio? They are given in the ratio of 2:3. So that means let us assume the 2x into 3x. What is the total of this? That means one angle is two parts, and another angle is the three parts. What is the total of these parts? Total of the angle, there are 5 parts. Okay, so now, so that means 2x into 3x. Okay, since the complementary means, what is that? 2x plus 3x is equal to 90 degrees. So total will become a 5x 90 degrees. Okay, the total will become a 5x 90 degrees. Okay, so x is equal to 90 by 5. If we do that, x is equal to 18 degrees. Okay, so now what is the larger value here? 3 into, so out of the 2 parts, 3 parts, what is the larger one? 3x. Okay, so now if you 3 into x 18, if we multiply, we will get the 54 degrees. The option 2 is the correct answer, 54 degrees. So when you know already concept, if you remember the concept of the complementary angle, sum of complementary angles 90 degrees. Okay, in the given ratio, find out the total of the given ratio, 5 parts. Okay, now one part become 18 degrees. Okay, then another part we need to identify. When you know the total parts, okay, now if you divide the complementary angle with that part, okay, we'll get the some value. Okay, so with that value, smaller ratio, larger ratio. So they're asking to find out the what is a smaller angle and larger angle. So now we need to identify the larger angle. So multiply with that larger part, then we'll get the value. So without, if this also applying calculation part also, we can try to identify the question answer like this. Similarly, the same question they are given 2x plus 7x is equal to 90 degrees. Okay, where the two complementary angles in the ratio of 2:7. Find the measure of the each angle we need to identify. Okay, so since the angles are the complementary, they are saying a plus b is equal to 90 degrees. Let us assume that the two angles are 2x and 7x. So 2x 7x become a 90 degrees. Okay, so where the total of the given angles, that 9x is equal to, then if you simplify that, will become a 9x is equal to 90 degrees. Then from this you need to identify the x value. Okay, in order to identify the each angle. So then the x will become a 10 degrees. Now what is the ratio they are given? 2x and 7x. Okay, so now we know the x value. If we substitute the x value into the given angle 2x and 7x, we will get the angle 2x will get the 20 degrees and second angle will get the 70 degrees. So what is the each value of the angle? One angle is 20 degrees, another one is the 70 degrees. Okay, so when you know the sum of the ratio, remember to when you give the ratios, try to find the sum of the ratio, and for the each unit divided by the total complementary angle of the angle divided by with the identifying the ratio, then we'll get the each part. Okay, so these are the some of the examples. Then the next one is, a polyhedron has 30 edges and 20 vertices. How many faces does this polyhedron have? Okay, option 1 is the 10, option 2 is the 12, option 3 is the 14, option 4 is the 20. Now we need to apply the Euler's formula here. So what is the Euler's formula says that here, okay? So that is faces, whenever polyhedra is given, okay, the Euler's formula says that faces plus vertices minus edges equal to 2. So this is the formula in Euler's law we have to remember, okay, where f is equal to faces, v is equal to vertices, e is equal to edges, okay. Face means the flat surface of the given polyhedron, okay, where vertex is a corner point where edges are the meet. We'll see in the like corner point where edges are meet. These are the vertices, these are the faces, okay. These are the edges, okay. Edges means a line segment where two faces meet, okay. So this one, face one, this one, where the point it is meeting, these are the edges, we say that, okay. So now for the cube, how many faces will be there? 6 faces. For how many vertices? 8 vertices will be there. For the cube, edges 12 will be there, okay. So what will become, according to Euler's formula, it will become a 2, okay. So like for we have the cube, triangular prism, square pyramid, tetrahedron, octahedron, okay. So where you can see these things. Now in this case, what they have asked, a polyhedron has given has the 30 edges they have, okay, and then what 20 vertices, there are 20 vertices are there like this, okay, and then edges they are given 30 edges they have given, okay. There are 30 edges they have. We need to identify how many faces does polyhedron we have. So faces we don't know, so that we need to identify, okay. So now if you apply that values into the Euler's formula, so where given edges is 30, vertices 20, and substitute in the given formula, so the f, so plus v is equal to e plus 2, okay, v is equal to a plus. If you apply f plus 20 is equal to 32, where f is equal to, so 32 minus 20, 32 minus 20 will become the 20. So that means there are 12 faces are there in the given polyhedron. So similarly, like some of the questions they are given, okay, so where we have to identify the vertices, and so these kind of questions will be here they are trying to identify the edges, and they are trying to identify the faces, okay. So remember the formula of Euler's formula, then try to apply values, and then we'll get the solution like from the based on this concept, like different questions they have been asking. Now the next one is, in a triangle ABC, the interior bisector of angle B and angle C meet at a point O. If angle BAC is 70 degrees, what is the measurement and value of angle BOC? So now let us try to understand. They are given triangle ABC, okay, triangle ABC. The internal bisector of angle B and angle C meet at the point O, where the base points are the angle B and angle C, okay, where these 2 points are meet at the point O when it is bisect 2 angles, okay. Now if angle BAC, that means angle A is the 70 degrees. If BAC is 70 degrees, what is the measurement value of angle BOC? So that means this value, this angle we need to identify, okay. So in a triangle BOC, okay, where BOC is equal to 180 degrees minus 1 by 2 B plus 1 by 2 angle C. That means, so let us try to understand the concept of internal bisector here, okay. So then we try to solve this question. So now what is the internal bisector here? The point where the internal bisector of a triangle internet is called the incenter. The structural formula of the derived from the angle sum property, it establishes that angle at the point intersection is always equal to 90 degrees plus 1 by 2 and opposite vertex angle. So now here in the given figure, okay, where this is the point of intersection of from the bisecting the angle B and angle C, okay. So of the given triangle, okay. So now what is the opposite of this angle vertex are the angle A, okay. So that becomes a 90 degrees plus 1 by 2 of the angle A. For similarly, if similarly angle, let us assume that this is the A, okay. Now similarly angle AIB, okay. So if you assume that angle for AIB 90 degrees plus 1 by 2 C, so this is the opposite angle, so that means it becomes a 90 plus off by angle C. Similarly BIC, if you see 90 degrees plus off into opposite of the where the point in-center point, okay, bisector in-center point is the A, so that becomes off by angle A by 2. Similarly for the CIA, this is the opposite of the point where a bisector point where it meets, okay. So that becomes a formula 90 plus of AB. So that means angle B by 2. Okay, so these are the formulas, basic formulas. When they ask angle bisector, you have to remember. Okay, in this case what will happen? Okay, so if we solve this one, BOC, that means 90 degrees, directly apply the formula 90 degrees plus. Okay, so what is the what is the opposite of this angle? Angle A by 2. So 90 degrees, what is the value of the angle A? 70 degrees. If you do 90 degrees plus 35, we'll get the 125 degrees. What is the value of here? Option 2 is the 125 degrees is the correct answer. Okay, so just remember the formula of in the bisector. What is the angle they are asking for, the exact angle of what is the opposite vertex. Okay, but so when they ask the opposite vertex, so opposite vertex value they will be given. Okay, so that value just directly substitute and do the division, simplify, then we'll get the answer. Then the next question is, in triangle ABC, sides AB and AC are extended to point D and E respectively. The external bisector of angle DBC and angle ECB intersect at point P, intersect at point V. If angle A is equal to 80 degrees, find the angle BPC. Okay, so now the figure is like this. Okay, in a triangle ABC, AB and AC are extended points. Okay, so that means this point and this point if extend, then we'll get the D and E points respectively. So the internal bisector of DBC, the internal bisector of DBC, angle D, angle DBC and angle ECB, okay, intersect at points. So when you extend this angle C and angle B, okay, when you extend like this, there is a one intersect point, that let us assume that that point is the P here. Okay, now if angle A is equal to 80 degrees, find the angle BPC. So that means this value we need to identify how much it is. Okay, so what we have to do here, similarly same internal bisector formula only we need to apply here. So what we need to do, the internal bisector formula here, angle BPC is equal to opposite of that one, 90 degrees minus angle A by 2. So opposite of the angle BP, so what is the value of the opposite is angle EA. What is the value of the angle here? 80 degrees. So 90 minus 80 degrees by 2 if we do, okay, that will get, how much will get, this is will get 40 and total value will get the 50. So option 2 is the correct answer for the. So what is the given EA value here? 80 degrees they are given. Okay, so we know the formula, angle BPC is equal to 90 degrees minus 80 degrees by 2. Okay, so when you simplify this one, we'll get the value. So option 2 is the correct answer. So just remember the concept of angle bisector centers of these formulas, and then we can easily solve. Okay, similarly for the angle external, that is the internal, this is the external bisector formula. So if you remember these formulas, we can easily apply that formula and get the solution. Okay, now the next question is, an angle is 18 degrees less than its complementary angle. What is the measurement value of that angle? Okay, so this is also like, let us assume that the angle they have given 18 degrees less than the complementary angles. When will, so what is the, this question is given based on the complementary angles. So when the angles will become a complementary angle, when you sum the angle, both the angles, if you become the sum of both the angles become a 90 degrees, then we say that both are the complementary angles. So here they have given one angle, they have given one another angle, we don't know that, they didn't give. So that we need to identify. So now let the angle be x degrees and the complementary angle is 90 degrees minus that x. Okay, so that means one angle is the 6 degrees and another angle is the 90 minus x. Now sum of this x degrees plus 90 degrees should be the 90, then we say that these two angles are the complementary angles here. Okay, now according to the question what they are given here, x is equal to 90 minus x minus 18 degrees. So that means the angle is 18 degrees less than the complementary angle. Okay, so this is the angle, this is the complementary angle here. So now complementary angle is 90 minus x is less than means minus 18 degrees. Okay, so now if you simplify this one, 90 minus x minus 18. Okay, so if you 90 minus 18, that will become 72 and minus x. So now we need to identify the x value. Okay, so this x will become a 2x equal to 70 degrees, then x will become a 36 degrees. So when you solve 72 by 2, it will become a 2 ones are 236. So x value is the 36. So which is the option is correct? First option is the correct one, 36 degrees. Remember the concept of the complementary angle, where one is the x value and another is the complement angle. Then both the angles should make it the 90 degrees. If you remember this concept, this question can be solved very easily. So that is the concept where they are explaining here. Okay, so now, like the key idea of this concept, we need to remember the two angles are the complementary angles if their sum is 90 degrees. If one angle is x, then its complementary is 90 minus x. So always start by the decimaling the x and 90 x. Okay, so where complementary pair will become, so this is the way of complementary become, where x plus 90 minus x is equal to 90 degrees. So what is the general formula for the complementary angle? X plus 90 minus x is equal to 90 degrees. The both way all, so if those two angles make it 90, then we say that these are the complementary angles. Okay, now there are different examples they have given like that, where they need to identify an angle is 20 degrees less than its complementary. Find the what is that angle. And the second one is one angle is twice its complementary, then find the angle. Then another example is the ratio of the two complementary angles they are given, then we need to find the angles. The another one is one angle is 15 degrees and one more than the twice its complementary angles. So then we need to find the angles we need to identify. So in such a cases, let us see now. An angle is 20 degrees less than its complementary. Find the angle. We don't know that. Let the angle be the x and its complementary will become a 90 minus x based on the formula, based on the concept. Okay. Now according to the question what they are given, the angle is 20 degrees less than the complementary angles. This is the complementary angle. The angle less than the angle, so that is the 20 degrees they are given. Okay, now if you simplify this, 90 minus x minus x minus x minus 2x equal to 20. Now minus 2x is equal to 20. If minus plus 90, if you bring it to RHS side, that will become a minus 70, where minus and minus will get cancelled. Now the rest will be the 2x is equal to 70, where x is equal to 35 degrees. One angle we got it the 35 degrees. Okay, so similarly another angle also we can, if you substitute that value 90 minus x value, then we'll get the complementary angle also. Then another example, one angle is twice its complementary. Find the angle. Okay, so now if you see here, let the smaller angle be the x always, and the complementary will become 90 minus based on the concept, based on the formula. Okay, then according to the question what they're asking, one angle is twice one, that means one angle equal to twice of the complementary angle. Okay, what is the complementary angle? 90 minus x. Okay, so now if you simplify this one, x is equal to 2 into 90, 180, 2 in, minus 2 into x, 2x. Okay, where minus 2x, bring it to LHS side, that will become a 3x. That means 2x, if you bring it minus 2x, it will become a plus 2x, that will become a 2x plus x, 3x. Okay, now 3x is equal to 180, where x is equal to 180 by 3. If we solve, simplify, then we will get the x is equal to 36, where one angle is the 30. Okay, where we will get the 30. Okay, one angle is the 30 degrees and another angle is the 60 degrees, where 90 minus x, 30. Okay, then the ratio of the two complementary angles is 3:7. Find the angles. Okay, now the ratio they have given, we need to find the ratio of the two complementary angles they have given. We need to find the angles we need to identify. Okay, so now let us assume that, okay, we don't know what are those angles. Assume that the angle be the 3x and 7x. Okay, since they both are the complementary angles, okay, the sum of the complementary angles will become a 3x plus 7x is equal to 90. Okay, so now if you simplify this one, if you add this one, 3x plus 7x is equal to 10x equal to 90, where x is equal to 9 degrees. Okay, where x is equal to 9 by 1 is nothing but 9. So what are the angles? That 9 value we need to substitute into the given angles, where 3 into 9 and 7 into 9, so we get the 27 and 63. The similar another case what they have given, one angle is 15 degrees more than the twice it's a complementary, then find the angles we need to. So let the angle be the x and complementary angle 90 minus x according to the question. Okay, one angle is more than twice it's a complementary angle, more than the twice, so complementary angle of the twice plus more than the complement twice of the complementary angle Okay, so in such a case, how you do this? 2 into 90 minus x plus 15. Okay, so where x is equal to, simplify this one, x is equal to 180 minus 2x plus 15. The minus 2x, if you bring it to LHS side, that will become a plus 2x plus plus x 3x. Then if you simplify this one, 195, then x value will become a 65 here. So therefore the angles, what are the angles? 65 and 25 degrees. Now with this we have discussed the basic terms of the geometry and the complementary angle versus supplementary angle. So what will be the complementary of the formula, okay, and what is the meaning of supplementary angle, what is the angle of supplementary angle, and we also discuss the Euler's polyhedron formula. So where they are given phases, vertices, edges in a solid shape, and from that how we can identify phase, how we can identify the phases, vertices and edges. And also we have discussed the angle bisector concept, where the internal incenter angle and external excenter angle. The formulas 90 degrees plus root a by 2, where root a is like nothing but is opposite of the incenter angle. Okay, where for the excenter 90 minus root a by 2 or root b by 2, root c by 2, based on the incenter of the value. Okay, so then we also discuss the parallel lines, and when the parallel lines cut the transversal lines, so how we can identify the co-interior angles. So that means our supplementary angles. Okay, so in this session we have discussed these are the 4 concepts, and similar concept, based on the concepts we have we solved some of the previous year questions. Okay, so if you remember all the formulas, these kind of questions you can be solved very easily. Thank you.